Welcome back to Block Fuel Live, and I just took over the intro,
I
which is
was
gonna make
gonna
Avi
say.
mad. Not
Yeah.
even ready.
That's the only part I had.
It's my
But, hey,
week.
we got-
It's Christmas week. I guess
Yeah,
it's
that was
not
like
even
a 5 out of 10 on that intro. It wasn't anything
Sean,
to
you
write
wanna
home
give it a
about.
go?
So, Avi, if you want to give the real one, go for it.
Wow. Welcome back to Block Fuel Live here with the
Ooh.
true host of Block
It's
Fuel
deep
Live.
in that voice, you know.
I got the radio voice going, but we do have a special Christmas week episode that we're just going to do probably 10 minutes because you got to go to the eye doctor. You said it, Sean. So
Let's not forget, we need to give a big shout out first to Jody. You know, his birthday is coming up here, day after Christmas. So gifts are accepted, preferred gift cards. You know,
he said he wants followers on Twitter. So to the 17th
and MicroStrategy stock, I thought.
Yeah, anything MSTR, I'll take.
So we are talking MSTR today, MicroStrategy. First day on the Nasdaq 100, which was a little battle we had internally of what that was. But that is now live today. Axon was live too, as well. Other stock was, and Palantir as well. So those three were on the Nasdaq 100, all kind of on a red day today. But we have a few topics we want to address here. We had a Wall Street Journal article, Jody, that you sent to us and said, "Hey, this is the impetus for this Block Fuel Live." So what happened with this investing cult? Is this GameStop 2.0?
Yeah, so really, I think you have to give a lot of credit, and it's been a lot of content that we've seen and reposted, and we've talked about recently with Tim Kotzman on the live stream. Is this following of people evaluating MicroStrategy in a very different way. So like starting on November 7th, we had, just from a block fuel perspective, we had Jeff Park and Ben Workman diving into how they evaluate MicroStrategy, why it's a lot more interesting and complicated than just looking at the net asset value of the Bitcoin that they hold. And the story goes a little bit deeper. And what MicroStrategy is getting at, or what Wall Street Journal is getting at, is that there's a cult that's following the stock now, and it's a really interesting, cool blend of both Bitcoin fervor and people that love Satoshi and that crazy volatility as we recently spiked past 100,000, and then also with, hey, here's an options play, and here's how you can get very levered up play on Bitcoin, that the degeneracy of people that like to gamble. And then you have people in the middle. They're just like, hey, I have a 401k, I have a Roth IRA. I want to get easy stock exposure, but the way that they're financial engineering MicroStrategy stock itself is giving a little bit extra juice. So Saylor is, both the figurehead and Satoshi and someone that gets you excited, but also there's starting to come out the bears, the short cases and the haters are coming out of the woodwork. So article does a good job. I know, Sean, you had poured through it, so kick it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you look at this stock. I mean, it's up what 60% since election day. It's quintupled in 2024. I mean, its market value is up to what, 89 billion. I mean, that was, give or take a couple billion. Who's counting? I mean, that's almost twice the Bitcoin holdings that it has. And then, now we have it joining the Nasdaq 100. The big thing, honestly, I think that a lot of people are wondering now is like, so you go to like the Vanguards, you go to Raymond James, like any of these IBDs that are out there. A lot of them have said like, no, we won't let you buy Bitcoin ETFs right now. However, how does this play in now? Because what if you buy an index of like the Nasdaq 100 in an ETF wrapper, and that's going to now have it? You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those things, like it's going to be hard for them to stop. You can't stop the machine, is where I'm going with this. Like it's going to continue to grow. Do I think it's a cult? I think there's some people that might be a little over their skis. But I think you see that with everything in life. Like there's people that get over their skis about, all kinds of different things. It's, to me, I don't know. I mean, this is the first time that I've seen this market like this, where you actually have governmental like people in the government actually saying, hey, let's get into crypto. Like yesterday, Trump nominated, forgot his name.
Brian Brooks.
No, so he joined the board of MicroStrategy.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah, so he's former Binance US, joins the board of MicroStrategy now. And then there was another guy that I think he came from like Andreessen.
Yeah.
That is going to be like he's going to oversee crypto or something. I'll have to look back up what it was but anyways, the point is, like, when you look at it in the current administration, I mean, we got no love. We got everything was, this is basically the anti everything of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you're seeing. I was just pulling up Kobayashi's letter. 650,000 contracts. So the options volumes reached an all-time high now for Master. I call it Master MicroStrategy. 1,000% increase over the last few weeks. So I know Santa rally's here at the end, but is there? Do you think there's with the Bitcoin, with all the younger folks that are starting to get involved, they're getting Christmas gifts? Is this like do you think that will start to kick us over to the Santa rally, or is that more like the altcoins you'll see start to rise? That's my thesis.
I mean, I think you're gonna have the Santa rally before. I mean, it's always post, obviously, the Christmas and whatnot. But that said, I don't know. I think we're actually gonna see a lull here for a while. Maybe go sideways until you have the actual inauguration. And then I think when you have the inauguration, because obviously he's saying, all this stuff he's going to do day one. I mean, that's my thesis on it.
To play devil's advocate, though, could it be a buy the rumor, sell the news situation where everyone's kind of expecting that? So it goes opposite.
Well, I mean, you also had, what's his name last week? You had Jerome Powell come out and say, no, we're not interested in changing any of the Fed rules so that we can hold Bitcoin. And I mean, that really put a damper, I think, on a lot of people's hopes. But I don't think a lot of people understand that you don't really need. I mean, you can have the Fed involved, but you don't have to have. I mean, the Fed's overseen by Congress. So if Congress comes in and says, hey, I don't want to do, or we want you guys to do this, I think, I don't know the exact details of how that plays out, but I think, you know what I mean? I think there's going to be, I don't think we've definitely not seen the end of this. And then getting it back to MicroStrategy, they just bought another, 5,000? Was it 50?
Pulling that up.
5,400 this morning?
5,200 for 561 million at 106 per coin. So he's going all in. I mean, he's at this point.
I think he's been long. He's been long all in.
Yeah. So they hold 444,262 Bitcoin. They started the year with 189,000 Bitcoin. So
I think he's fourth on the list now.
Yeah,
behind all of them.
I
mean, everybody. But there was another thing that came up last week that a friend of mine posted about, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. It's not necessarily MicroStrategy, but BlackRock, in their announcement or educational thing about Bitcoin, they put a thing in there that said, basically said they can't guarantee that Bitcoin would stay at 21 million, coins total. And, of course, somebody out there has to go write an article and pretend like it's, the end of the world. And I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, like, what are the odds that you would ever get enough protocol votes to effectively devalue yourself?
I mean, yeah, like changing. I mean, you could always do a hard fork and then get people to adopt it, but
we saw how well that worked out with BCH and BSV.
Yeah, and it's. I think that's been a risk for so long. I agree. Like the block size wars. you have this big risk of like, oh, is this going to be a recurring thing for we're going to have all these different variances of the Bitcoin code, and like we're going to have to fight all these battles. But it's been pretty quiet if you think about it. Like you had ordinals, that's been something that's kind of gone away from the news.
Yeah, that's
You
came and
have
gone.
these crazy, and there's still people building on those, and they're seeing it as like opportunities like runes to build in smart contract functionality and L2s on top. But those are fees that, even though it's potentially spam transactions, those are
Yeah.
fees that miners truly do appreciate, and that's like helping keep their business afloat. So me speaking to miners, it's like, hey, they like that functionality within Bitcoin. And then I think for changing the 21 million cap, it would take it just seems so unlikely, because you're also, if people look at this as strategic, currency or like treasury reserve for countries. Now, it's like NATO agreeing to it, or it's like a large, UN agreeing to it. So are people going to feel like, El Salvador, hey, you're diluting the Bitcoin that I bought, that I risked, in 2020, 2021, whenever they started buying. So I think it'd be very hard for them to
Yeah,
like.
it takes away from the whole narrative, and I think that it's one of those things. I always think like hedge funds and BlackRock is up there as well. They can pay off writers if they want to go buy more Bitcoin. They want to suppress the price too. That could easily be a situation there. I mean, I just don't see them.
For those that don't know, on our show, Avi is the resident conspiracy theorist.
Truther.
So he does always think that the guy next door is always out to get him.
No, not nervous about that.
No, not anymore. I just moved.
Which leads us to the second one, which is
news
this morning. Yeah, news this morning is about
wasn't it
North
down
Korea,
like 50% or something, some crap?
Yeah, rumors of North Korea doing like $700,000 in losses actually on Hyperliquid to see if they could start stress testing the platform itself. Because this is Hyperliquid is new. What's his name? Is it not Justin Yan? I'll have to look at the CEO's name, but he did like an interview last week I was watching.
I think it's a protocol.
It's an L1 protocol, and they're have a really interesting model, bringing out over this DEX, or almost like a centralized exchange, because they only have like 8 validators or 4 validators, but they are going crazy up the charts. They're already at number 24 in CoinMarketCap. And so I think with this fast rise, they haven't been tested like Solana went down, last year, the year before, multiple times. So North Korea is looking at this opportunity to stress test it, potentially like make off of users' money. So there's been a ton of withdrawals. Yeah. Avi, is this actually Kim Jong-un doing this, or what do you believe?
So I just pulled up a tweet actually from Hyperliquid, who responded and said that there is no DPRK exploit, or any exploit for that matter. All funds are accounted for. So they came out and discredited this actually.
Steady lads.
At 8 a.m. So I don't know.
What did CZ used to say? All funds are safe as a snafu, or safe as like something like safe as well. Yeah, you saw it. I mean, first of all, who's going to come out and admit, like, even if there was something, why would you come out and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, yeah, there is validity to that. And literally, as that hits the press, it's like, whoosh, torpedo. I mean, I don't know, but
usually where there's smoke, there's some fire. But I haven't had a chance to speak intelligently on this yet, so I haven't looked it up enough. Even though you gave us that as one of the topics there.
So lastly, the Santa rally, even though Avi, the Hanukkah rally, what are your thoughts? Why have we not seen it?
Holiday rally for anyone else out there.
It's the Happy Holidays rally now.
Exactly. No, I still call it Merry Christmas. I think we run up again. Yeah, but I do think once Trump's in, just because I always zig when people zag, I think that as soon as Trump's in, we'll have a little bit of a downturn in the markets. But I do think up until Jan 20th, it'll start to run into it. That's just from a market overall.
I was hoping 125 by the end of the year. It's not looking very. I mean, you never know though. I mean, this thing could go ballistic. And then, coming into the new year, you got Chinese New Year. So you got a lot of quiet, although they're not supposed to be apparently in, crypto right now. I don't know how well that's enforced. No, I think we could see 100 again. I mean, look, the Dow was open today, down almost over 200 points. We're only down 45 right now. You're up 25 on the S&P and a buck and a half on the Nasdaq. I mean, the nice thing is like Nvidia continues to, keep pushing and defy a lot of analysts that think it's just gonna fall apart.
Well, I guess with all the tailwinds we've had, we talked about like Trump, we talked about ETFs at length before, like there's so much, this is very different. And I've only been in the space since like 2017. You've been in longer. So you've seen more of these, ups and downs and cycles, but like people are just saying like, the cycle.
We've seen this rodeo before though.
Sure. But do you not think that there has been so much difference? Like, everybody. President hasn't been talking about it to this degree.
Everybody says it's different this time. It's different every time they say it's different this time. Well, no shit, it is like somewhat because, I mean, when was the last president you had literally that would talk about crypto like on the regular? Like you haven't. So I mean, I'll give that, but I'll say I'm all in positive, but I just, what do we got here, Jody? What do you got?
That was a nice little tweet this morning. I do think what we're seeing is there is a lot of bullishness right now on liquidity increasing. You see China needing to print. You see global liquidity rising. But I do think following
validity here.
Yeah, following Powell's comments last week, I think people are saying, oh, okay, liquidity isn't going to come into the system fast enough. And so if you're expecting like an altcoin season immediately, in the next month, then you might be sorely disappointed. And I think we see now, like on days like today, if it's a red day, there's a lot of rotation. There's a rotation into BTC. Sometimes there's a rotation out of BTC into something like ETH. Or there's
I'll leave it to you guys to wrap this up. I'm gonna.
Good luck on your eye exam.
We're making it short.
Get those eyes
checked.
I need to
make sure my eyes get checked before the end of the year. Everybody. Yeah. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Actually, don't do anything. Just keep it like it is, and your portfolio will be blurry. You'll start seeing,
then I'm not worried ever.
Yeah,
I'm always going up. Why is that red? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, on red days, I'm in the Chinese markets, so it's always good.
All right, on that note, we'll see you guys. Happy holidays.
You want to keep going, Jodes?
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up. I think do want to give a shout out to I think going back on the first topic we were looking at, I do think if you're looking back at just like the Wall Street Journal article, I think it's cool coming to light a lot of the same sentiment and fervor that you have with Roaring Kitty and GameStop. You have like, a central figurehead, which is Saylor, but you also have, these larger mouthpieces of the quant bros. So, we see Jeff Walton and Ryan McGinnis, I think, mentioned in the article. And those are people that are like saying like, hey, like, let's distill this down. Let's make it part of the culture. Like we're educating you and we're learning ourselves on, what are some of these options contracts, where these leaps on MicroStrategy. And some of the culture stuff does bleed over from GameStop or just from meme coins in general in crypto, where you're going to have these like, have fun staying poor, or like, the cash is for the poor, these quotes that I think seem egregious for people on the outside, but I think it's still like, it is the future where you have, as we've seen with StockTwits, like you have this social element combined with, the trading element, and that didn't exist as much in the past, but I think now it's just part of the future.
Yeah. I guess for the listeners who are novices, I'd say to MicroStrategy, I still consider myself pretty novice, but I've been watching a lot of Saylor clips on YouTube. Yeah. And he is a damn good salesman. Like he says it in a way, granted he's got that billionaire status behind him, so you're taking his words a little bit more seriously. But I would say, just like the more I'm learning about it, Jeff Park's been awesome. We've had him on the podcast before. There's just so many good people talking about it, but I would love to bring a bear on and have like a little battle live on a stream where we have like Jeff Park and on the pro MicroStrategy, and then just bring some bears on, because it is helpful as an investor to hear both sides and then ultimately come up with your thesis of what you think. Full transparency, I do own MicroStrategy. Jody, I know you do too. So not investment. What do you have to say legally here? Not investment advice.
Yeah,
Do
not
your own
financial
research.
advice.
But no, honestly, do your own research, because it is interesting. It's almost a phenomenon, right? Like Bitcoin in itself is, and it's kind of goes back to the deep beliefs of like, what is money, and I think enough people now, we've hit that, critical mass where we have the president talking about it. We have ETFs behind it. We have a ton of people in suits starting to ask about this. And I think where it's going to get really interesting is when we view Bitcoin, really as collateral. And if it goes beyond 21 million coins, then it kind of, that whole thesis goes out the window. Right. And so, if you view Bitcoin as the future of collateral, which I'm starting to believe into, I think it will just continue. Like the more and more people that buy and hold and leverage, as collateral, it could work. So, any closing thoughts, Jody? We got the century mark. We got 100 people listening right now.
Yeah, for the century mark. What we have is, I think with MicroStrategy too, there's this piece that the public doesn't see and that the average investor doesn't see. And once you dive in and, like the Twitter group, the Irresponsibly Long MicroStrategy, Twitter group that you can follow. And there's a ton of really good people in there that like try to break things down. Ben Workman always does a great job of breaking things down. And Jeff Park as well is speaking on like, hey, here's why this is an interesting stock. And it's not just about like, looking at it as a Bitcoin holding company. It's about, there's a crazy demand that typically people don't see, which is like for the bonds themselves. And if they're like, if you're a hedge fund manager, you're a pension fund manager, you're some kind of like wealth, family office in Europe, and your mandates, you can only buy bonds for a certain amount of like capital and exposure. Then if some of your, other portfolio managers competing with, or other options you're competing with, or having really good returns, as we start to like, market starts to pick up, liquidity is increasing, portfolio manager invested in Nvidia next to you and his returns are crazy. Well, if you can only invest in bonds, you have a very limited selection of that. So they're looking for volatility, and MicroStrategy has a crazy volatility and exposure to Bitcoin that no other bonds have. And then seeing that bond market is something that most people don't look at. They look at like, the Nasdaq, they look at, the NYSE. And so I think that's what people in the group start to understand and learn, even novices, I could say like ourselves. And then you see that like people continue to buy these bonds. So it's they're putting their money where their mouth is. And then as those bonds have conversion at like 130% of like the strike price, then you're going to actually see like that turn into equity. And there continues to be an appetite for that as well. So I think what we're seeing is just imperfect information, people on the outside not understanding that there's different mechanism in play. They just see, oh, hey, what's the net asset value of all the Bitcoin that MicroStrategy owns? Okay, that's like what the stock price should be, and that should be $130, not $340, whatever it is today. But it's more complicated than that. So my ending piece would be, you have to take a minute to learn about some of these cult communities and why they feel the way they do. And I think it's because they see, oh, I really have a lot to learn about why people are bullish on this. So take a minute to learn about it before saying, we're a lot of zealots.
Yeah. No, and double down on the volatility aspect. Like it's 10% of my holdings right now. And so crazy swings, every day it's, massive. So you have to have a stomach. You have to, I don't even care. I'm not doing the options myself. Just trying to time the market with Bitcoin is crazy, right? It's crazy enough with the public markets where there's quarterly earnings reports, et cetera. So I'm just long Bitcoin, ultimately. And so MicroStrategy, I'm doing the same thing with them. Like I don't care if it goes down a little bit. I know it will pop up eventually. So this is cool. We got 103 people. I think we maxed out. But we'll bring some folks on. If you guys are big on MicroStrategy, shoot us a DM, follow us on Twitter at BlockFuel. Got a lot of different podcasts that we've done recently. I think we're up to like 75, 77 or so. So check those out, bringing on leaders of within the blockchain industry. And just, yeah, that's it. I've ran out of words.
And don't forget to touch grass this week. Unplug. Don't
Need
worry
to
about
do
the markets. Be with your family. It's going to come. I know a lot of good traders, have stepped away, or are stepping away for the next 2 weeks to end the year. So don't let the market get you down or any kind of healthy pullback. The coins, the stocks, they'll be there when you return in January.
Love it. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
That's it.